We are on the brink of a historical event within the Web3 space, and we would be doing a disservice to our viewers if we didn't address the topic. So today we're going to get into the Ethereum merge, which is very beefy, but we're going to take you through just the very basics of what's happening.
Drop the knowledge, queen.
Alrighty, so what is the merge? Do you know anything about the merge? I know you know some.
We're moving from proof of work to proof of stake.
Yes. All right. So basically, it is the transition of those things. And both proof of work and proof of stake are just the mechanisms which decides like who to add to the next block. And so all of these changes essentially are happening on what's called the consensus layer. And we'll talk about that. But I think the important thing that most people probably don't realize is that this merge has always been a part of the Ethereum plan. Like back before the token went live, it's always been a part of Vitalik's vision and a part of the Ethereum roadmap. And it's just
that part I didn't know. I thought that this was in response to another blockchain we shall not mention.
No. So it's always been a part of the vision, and it's just taken 7 years to get there. So we'll talk a little bit more about what's the difference between proof of work and proof of stake, just to lay that foundational layer. So right now we are on proof of work, and this means that the network is secured by miners who have to purchase and run the mining hardware themselves. So they consume a ton of electricity, which we all know, we hear about it all the time, in exchange for running that electricity, and it's in exchange for block issues to run a portion of the transaction fees. So then when we switch to proof of stake, the network moves from miners to validators who stake their ETH to validate the model. So these validators don't consume near as much electricity, and we'll talk more about that. So there are some terms that people may not be familiar with, staking being one of them. And at its like highest level, staking is just the act of depositing onto like the validator software. And so in the instance of Ethereum, in order to stake to a validator, it takes 32 ETH to get that validator up and running. So it is a heavy investment, and there are different ways that you can become involved in staking if you don't have the 32 ETH, and we'll chat about that in just a second.
So just so you know, what she means when you say it takes 32 ETH is you cannot use that ETH while you are a part of the process, right? So it is out of your wallet. You are holding it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's
locked away.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah. So then as a validator, you'll be responsible for storing the data, processing transactions, and then adding new blocks to the blockchain.
Let's just tell our audience really quick, they understand what the benefit is to the user of doing this. You can make potentially a lot of money back.
Yeah.
A lot of ETH back, crypto money back.
Yep. You can earn rewards as a validator. So I know quite a few people who are setting up solo staking operations, and there are a few different ways that you can set up staking, but this with the intent of generating like income for themselves. So the rewards are given for actions that help the network reach consensus. So basically saying, yes, you can go ahead and process this transaction through the Ethereum blockchain, and you get those rewards for running the software that properly batches those transactions into new blocks that checks the work of the other validators because they're all working together. And that's what keeps the chain running securely. So you're being rewarded for interacting with the blockchain, using up your own energy, and helping secure the network, essentially. A few other benefits, and maybe we'll talk about that first, and then we can get into the ins and outs of validators and what all that means. The biggest thing I think that people are talking about is the energy consumption. It has far decreased when moving to proof of stake. And basically, the energy consumption is going to be reduced by 99.95%, which is
huge.
Massive.
That was supposed to be in a Donald Trump voice.
Huge.
It's really bad impersonation, but
we're not good at that.
I gave it.
But as a whole, it will use drastically less carbon. And how this works is that when swapping from proof of work to proof of stake, the real world value invested comes from the ETH staked. So again, that 32 that you have to get set up into a validator, and that ETH is staked in a smart contract. So as Lux was saying earlier, you can't touch it. It is staked. It is a part of that contract. And this, as a result of that, it removes the need for miners to burn all of this energy to add to the blockchain. So that's where we're seeing a drastic decrease in the environmental cost. And then again, we talked about this for a second, but there are so many people out there that are like, crypto is terrible for the environment. Yes, by moving to proof of stake, this basically removes that argument. And so we can see on the screen here that this is a chart from June 2022 showing Ethereum versus other just like normal platforms that we're used to seeing in terms of their energy consumption. And what you're seeing here is the terawatts per year are the numbers that we're seeing here. So today, Ethereum is in the middle, 112 terawatts compared to YouTube, which is 244. And then if we go all the way to the very end of the chart here, once we move to proof of stake, it's 0.01. Just massive, massive savings altogether in terms of energy consumption.
Huge.
What
can't I do it?
I think another thing to point out is this bit is hilarious. Ethereum compared to YouTube basically estimates on YouTube's energy expenditure can be broken down by the channel and individual costs. So basically, YouTube consumed 45 more times energy watching Gangnam Style in 2019 than the proof of stake will use in an entire year. So that's just to put it into context, just the amount of energy savings.
Yes, this does not surprise me. A little trivia about myself. I used to work for a firm in Chicago, and one of our missions was to talk about the CO2 environmental impact that the internet is having. I hate to tell everyone this, but all of the like cat JPEGs and videos you've been watching are not good. They're burning more than you think. And it's like the secret thing that nobody wants to talk about because everybody loves the internet so much that they can't let it go. So anyway, happy to see Ethereum making some big moves here to lower energy consumption. Big problem in our current society.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Another benefit outside of earning and improved environmental impact is just it makes Ethereum more secure as a whole. And this is because the network gets stronger as more ETH is staked. So basically, in order to be a bad actor, you need more ETH to run a majority of the validators, which means you basically have to control a majority of the ETH in the system. So that's pretty hard for a normal person to accomplish and even a really well-off person to accomplish.
Yes.
The mechanics of this are like the validators perform the same function. So again, like that function that's happening on the consensus layer, except they're expending their assets up front as opposed to the miners, like obviously having to go out and secure those blocks and mine them. So the ETH is staked as collateral against bad behavior. And it can be destroyed. This ETH can be destroyed if the blockchain has determined that you are being nefarious. So there are huge implications for you as like a validator. If you do decide to become a bad actor, you could lose your assets. So it's a huge risk. The validator has the ability to propose and attest to blocks in the network. And so again, this helps to prevent that dishonest behavior. The last thing that I'll just briefly touch upon is a benefit to going to proof of stake is scalability. So this is not a part of this release. Again, not a part of this release as it relates to sharding. So sharding it will lay the foundation for more scalability on Ethereum later on, but the rollout for sharding isn't expected based on like their roadmap and communication until 2023. I would not be surprised if that is pushed out a few years, just knowing that it took us 7 years to get to the merge. And sharding is the process of splitting the database horizontally to spread the load. And so through sharding, so basically it reduces network congestion and increases transactions per second by creating new chains or shards. So this is where I think there's that misconception that the release of the merge or the happening of the merge we'll start to see like faster transactions and relief in gas prices. That's not necessarily the case. That will happen. We'll see more of that once sharding is introduced. But again, they're saying 2023. We'll see if that happens. So those are the key benefits to going from proof of work, proof of stake, scalability, earning rewards, more environmentally friendly, and it's more secure as a whole. And we talked a little bit about staking. Staking has actually been live within Ethereum since like December of 2020. And that's because the Beacon chain had been up and running at that point, and it was just running in parallel, almost as like a test net for the entire process. Okay, so when the merge happens, these two chains that have been separate the proof of work will become deprecated, and the proof of stake is what will be used from here on out. And so that will be combined with the other layers of the Ethereum blockchain. So again, proof of work just goes away entirely. And this means that the staking is currently live today for people to deposit their ETH, run a validator client, and start earning rewards. The point of this is to basically, on the testnet, to get enough people contributing to reach consensus. So they've been doing this since December of 2020 without any major issues. Gorley was released without issue. And so the next step actually is the merge. So I think it's really interesting. It very much is like an agile process where they're building in tandem and in parallel and testing. And then with the merge, the proof of work will be deprecated. And also, there's another update that will come that they're calling the Shanghai update. So it's just a name. It's not the location.
Oh, you found that out the hard way.
I did. I really did. It was a humbling moment.
But why Shanghai? Why in that location?
But after this update happens, they're projecting this to be within like 6 months to a year. Stakers will then be able to start to withdraw rewards and funds from their validator ballots. So we talked a lot about staking and validators, but you might be like, WTF, a validator? What is that? So it is a virtual entity that lives on the Beacon chain, and it participates in the consensus of that Ethereum protocol. So the validators are represented by a balance, a public key, and other properties. So there's the validator, and then there's the validator client. And the client is the software that acts on behalf of the validator. It holds and uses that private key. And a single validator can hold many different key pairs, controlling many different validators. Prior to, again, the initial launch of Ethereum, the researchers and developers had already been working on a way to determine how to switch to POS. I knew it needed to happen in 2 different phases because doing it all at once, huge risk. The Beacon chain launched in December of 2020, separate chain to test in production without having impact to the current network. So that's why all of that happened. In addition, this is a point I wanted to say, it was done to give stakers enough time to gather that ETH. So large amounts of ETH to secure the network is the whole purpose of that. So they gave people time to accrue the ETH to get to consensus and then pour that into the validator to basically make sure that the network was secure enough to move from proof of work to proof of stake. So we said Beacon chain quite a bit. At its most simplest and most fundamental level, it's a ledger of accounts that conducts and coordinates the network of stakers. So if we think about that, it's, again, a ledger of accounts to coordinate the network and stakers. That's that consensus that's happening, not the actual transactional level, but it's that consensus layer. And so that is what is changing.
So it's just keeping track of who's participating.
Yeah.
Teamwork.
So before we talk about like how to stake, I want to just quickly run through some of the misconceptions. So can I buy ETH2? No, sweetie, that's not how it works. Nothing within the token is changing. I hope that you understand that by now. It's all on the consensus layer. There is no ETH2. If someone says, come give me your money for ETH2, they're scamming you.
They're scamming you. So basically the ETH that you have in your wallet will be, it's good. Just don't do anything.
Correct. Yeah.
You're good.
It does not impact your ETH holdings. As mainnet gets merged onto the Beacon chain, it will also merge the entire transactional history of Ethereum. So again, you don't need to do anything. Your funds are safe. Stay diligent. This is prime time for scammers, again, to reach out and take advantage of holders who are lacking knowledge. So like, you don't need to send your ETH anywhere to upgrade
to ETH2. You do not need to give out your seed phrase to upgrade to ETH2 as just someone who holds the token. It does not impact you at all.
Where it could potentially impact you is we are seeing some of the major marketplaces and dApps, so decentralized apps within the ecosystem, going ahead and just preemptively announcing that there will be a pause period. So I think they're prepared to shut down operations at the key point of the merge happening just to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Yes. There shouldn't be a huge lift for the dApp developers, but there could be some things that do impact like the API and how their architecture is set up. So
I have seen some of that information on different app sites and stuff. They're explaining if they're going to go down or not. They'll say, oh, just FYI, we'll be down during the merge and then we'll be back. So if you are worried about a dApp that you use, having a blackout period, check on their website.
And I would say a majority of the marketplaces, so OpenSea, like that is a DApp. It's one of the biggest DApps that exists. So they will have a pause period. So a lot of the marketplaces, just be aware, could potentially be a pause period. Speaking of marketplaces, people maybe want to know, how does the merge impact their NFTs? Again, it should not. It's just if there is a pause to a marketplace or somewhere which you're interacting with your NFT, but the NFT itself will have no change with the merge. And then,
this will be interesting to see how the market responds. The stock market obviously goes down every day and through the weekend. But I don't know how the crypto space is going to respond to the plasma market, because everybody here is a little loopy.
The last thing to talk about is how to stake. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this because honestly, by the time you're watching this video, if you're going to stake, you've probably already done it and have done your research. And this video is not to teach you how to stake by any means. So there are, to my knowledge, 4 different ways to stake. There is solo home staking, and this is like the gold standard. This is the top tier, like you're hardcore into it. You would receive the highest level of reward for doing solo staking. But this also means that you're running all of your own equipment and setup. Like you need to have consistent staking Wi-Fi. Yeah. You need a dedicated like device, whether it is just like a home laptop or a Raspberry Pi. That's really all you need, but you really want to have that sort of dedicated device. And most likely you're going to have to set up some sort of like monitoring to just make sure that, you know, everything's running smoothly, because the second your validator goes down, the second your income is impacted.
Yeah.
Another option is staking as a service. So SaaS, not software as a service, but staking as a service.
Oh God, no more acronyms.
Yeah.
That's also SaaS and like CSS. Oh no, there's another one, because when I first heard the term SaaS, software as a service, I was deep in front end development. I was like, why are we talking about
so tough.
SaaS stuff?
It took me the longest time when working through like proof of stake to be like, it's not software as a service. It's staking as a service.
Yeah. Welcome to acronym hell.
Yes. Quick note on the solo home staking. So that does take the 32 ETH. You have to have that to stake the validator. I think that was probably a given, but just double checking on. The next option would be staking as a service, like we were just chatted about. And again, it's depositing 32 ETH for a validator, but you delegate node operators to a third-party processor. And so this process, you usually get some sort of guidance setup, including that key generation and deposit, and then upload your signing keys to the operator. So the service to operate your validator, they operate your validator on your behalf. And it usually comes at a monthly service fee. The return that you get, I believe, is slightly less on that. And then we have pooled staking and any amount of ETH. Now we're moving down to, you can be anybody, and you basically just hand everything off to a third party to run this. Your return on this is far less, but it is a lower barrier of entry. And I think the thing to consider is pooled or delegated, not natively supported. So this is a thing that I was just like, I'm not so sure about, that it's not natively supported by the Ethereum protocol, but it exists because there are so many people who want to participate in staking, but they don't have the 32 ETH.
So there's third parties operating the staking pools.
Yep, totally.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is the pooled staking. So the very last thing you can do is a centralized exchange. It has the least amount of impact for you as a validator, and it runs the highest level of risk because it is just so many people throwing ETH into sort of a single point. And so you're a centralized area, basically. And so you can create that single point of failure. And you'd have to do a ton of research here, I think, to figure out who the right provider for something like this would be. There's definitely options out here for everyone, but I thought it would be interesting as well. Okay, so today, these are the number of validators that are up and running, the number of ETH that is staked, and then the return that you're getting on this today. So 4.1%, and we've got over 400,000 validators. That is the very basic rundown of what is happening within the Ethereum merge. It should be happening within the next week. So at time of recording, this is September 8th of 2022. And I would say by next weekend, we will be full on in the merge, or it will have happened. And it's just very exciting because, I mean, thinking about the fact that this was a part of the Ethereum vision from the start. And Ethereum has been successful slowly since token sale and has increased in like prominence. It's taken 7 years to get to the merge.
Crazy. So, I can't wait to see what happens. I hope it goes smoothly.
Are you staking?
Am I staking? No. So I told you this in a personal chat the other day, but I totally forgot that I had looked into setting up mining or validating on my own end like this time last year. And for me, because I'm such a nerd, I'm like home staking or bust. And I was like reading into how much I was going to actually make doing it and what equipment I need and everything. And I was like, no. I'm too late.
I'm very curious to know if any of our viewers are staking, if they have staked, what your experience has been and getting that set up.
Thank you for knowledge dumping on us because that was a lot of information to get through.
We wanted to bring you guys to our little Degen corner of the internet with our face paints to just help lay the foundational level of how this is all working, even if you're not going to stake. If your sole purpose is to collect NFTs, it does still run on the Ethereum blockchain. So I think having that knowledge base is important.
But I think so too. Yeah. And you never know. You might turn into a nerd and start to contribute yourselves. I recommend it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We're very active. New content comes out every Wednesday and Saturday. And with that, we'll see you after the merge. Bye.
Peace.